After the Pledge of Allegiance, the approval of minutes, if we can ask the board just to review the previous minutes and get a motion for approval in a second.
I'll second.
If all agreed, we'll move on and approve the minutes. Which takes us to reports, which I think it takes us immediately to Tammy.
Before we move on to reports, I had provided the board with two sets of minutes, the January minutes and the February minutes. Can you approve the January minutes as well? There was an error in those with regards to the minute notation.
Thank you.
Which I had highlighted in there from last meeting.
If specific, we've just approved the previous, if we can get a motion for the January.
I'll make a motion.
And a second? And all agree we'll approve.
Thank you so much.
Now we can move on to reports.
Bakir's going to lead us tonight on the programming report, so I'm going to hand it over to him.
Okay.
And thank you so much, Bakir.
Good afternoon. We are excited to talk about a new program, Girls Flag Football. We met today with, Tammy and I did, we met with Mary and Jim Brown, NFL Flag Football Commissioners of Narberth Athletic Association, and they're also in the Montgomery County Coaches Hall of Fame. So they have a lot of experience in the area, and we were just talking about strategies on how to talk about we can grow this program. They're going to put this in the mainline media news outlet for us. We put it in the Radnor Patch. So we're really excited to get this program underway. In 2024, the PIAA, Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association, made girls flag football a official sport. And as of 2026, we have 151 girls sports participating. So we see this as a huge opportunity. We're trying to get in on it as the ground is hot. Tammy and I, we see it akin to pickleball, when before no one was really talking about it, and now it is everywhere. And also, I should have mentioned, our girls flag football will be conducted with Skyhawks Delaware Valley. And as I've talked about, they do many programs with us. These are their upcoming ones, along with the girls flag football, golf tots, and baseball tots. Mini Hooper's next session starts Sunday, March 29th. And we had 78, we had some 60s, we had some snow today, but pickleball, tennis, and all that is here, and it's starting Saturday. Radnor youth basketball season is coming to an end. Here's a picture of the senior high school boys championship game taken over at Villanova. So just a really, really cool shot. It's been a program that's run for a really long time, and it's been a great partnership between Radnor youth basketball and the Township. Also, our men's pickup basketball's new session starts a week from today. Ricky Foster, Director of Public Works, continues to be the liaison between that league and the Township for us. An update for Hiking Hounds. We have some upcoming programs for them, Little Tykes on Hikes, Treats on the Trails. This is the program that takes place over in the Willows Trail. They have different themes for these programs. They're doing very well in terms of the fishing. The fishing camp over at the Willows has sold out. Their intro to fishing has sold out their first 2 weeks, and the third week is almost sold out. Soccer Shots starts next Saturday as well. Unique thing about Soccer Shots is they start as young as 18 months. They have a new website that they're using compared to last year. Some benefits for the user and the admin side of it. The numbers are continuing to grow. Ramp Up with, they do our skateboarding clinic right over here in the lot. Starts Sunday, April 19th. Cool thing for them is the East New York School District had a grant that they were able to do skating curriculum, and they used that to fund Ramp Up to do that program over there, and they were featured on their local news station. So we got some good exposure with our partner there, and continuing the theme of all of our partners and being on social media. To give you guys a quick update on our Positive Coaching Alliance grant, we've officially selected what type of curriculum and program we're going to be using for our Radnor Day Camp in terms of training. So PCA is going to come in and do a 1-hour in-person training, along with the other various trainings the township does with the police department, just going over our policies and procedures and our handbooks. This brand is up and coming as well. They have a lot of ambassadors that the young kids will adhere to, like Steve Young, Phil Jackson, Lamar Jackson, Steph Curry, etc. The interesting thing as well is their training will be specific to Radnor Day Camp in terms of our policies, disciplinary actions, and things like that. And to continue with Radnor Day Camp training, we'll have Sherry Willis there as well. She'll be doing a virtual training. She's a licensed clinical therapist. Her strategies of training will be how to handle your own emotion, how to handle campers' emotion. It's a lot going on with 200 kids running around, various staff, and various stuff going on. So we're excited for her, and during my call with her, I learned a lot from her myself. That's the conclusion of the programming report. Are there any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you.
After programming, do you have anything, Tammy or
I
Howard?
do. I have a few things. First of all, I just want to thank Bakir for all his hard work. This is a really busy time for camps lining up, and not only that, but there's also the overlap of winter programming winding down. Spring programming is still taking place and getting ready to take place. And believe it or not, Radnor Day Camp really is a 12-month out of the year process. It's like running a business, like a lot of people do when they run camps. And I just want to acknowledge all the work that he's jumped in and really has been able to take on concurrently, because there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of plates that he has spinning at once. He's been able to really craft a great relationship with our summer camp staff. We have employees that have been with us 5 years, 15 years, 18 years. We have a lot of high tenured people. There's a lot of personalities, and there's a lot of moving pieces. We actually have 2 co-directors that are going to be emerging into the director role this year, with our director taking a step back but still supporting the camp. So when that happens, there's a lot of learning about people and their strengths and their weaknesses and all of those things, and being able to manage that. And Bakir has really jumped in and has really melded some great relationships with folks and has put a lot of time in. He started doing interviews, of course, for summer staff. It's really, we manage all the processes A to Z. There's also the interface in working with the school district's various departments. With the special education department, we have such a high amount of the kids that require a lot of, one-on-one support, group-based support for various needs and things like that. We're also working with the transportation department at the school district, because they provide all the daily transportation to and from camp, as well as those, the trips that we do 3 weeks out of the 6 weeks of camp. We also work closely with the operations department, because we're operating out of the school's facilities. So, we're dealing with folks not only at Radnor High School, where camp is going to take place this summer, but also the operations department, which has a command on, a lot of the things that are going on with the facilities throughout the district, and obviously our campsite. So there's a lot of daily communication that's taken part there that he's been at the forefront of. So I want to just recognize all of his work, and that doesn't even scrape the surface of the things that he's doing on a daily basis. So I want to thank Bakir, and I just want to thank all of the staff that he's working with as well throughout the summer. Sometimes they go overlooked as being a part of our department, and they really are a big piece of what we do, even though they're seasonal summer employees. I also want to recognize Tracy Kroom, too, our program coordinator. She is going to be running our 3 weeks of Wizarding Camp this summer, which is a huge operation where she oversees all the curriculum development, all the oversight of the staff, and implementation of all of the structure and logistics of the camp. It's sold out already. We have 35 kids in each of the weekly sessions, which takes place at Hilltop Preparatory School. So it's really another big operation in which we have going on. So I want to really recognize her for her efforts, and then all of the event programming that she has, throughout the year. Namely with Wheels of Wayne coming up on April 26th, which is one of our largest events. Out of the course of the year, we get thousands of people that attend. We're in a very truncated footprint in downtown Wayne, where we have, I think we're up to 71 vehicles that are registered already, and tons of community vendors and sponsors, and it's really like putting a 1,000-piece puzzle together in a very small piece of area to make that event work. So I want to recognize her for that. And then Natalie, of course, who is one of our other program coordinators, providing so much support on a lot of the programming you see, like skateboarding and some of the other things that we have that are going on, with lots of really big contracts with vendors. So, and she's also going to be running our trip to Wicked, which I know we had advertised to you guys last month. I won't go into all the details about that, but the trip is going to go. It's being sold. It's a partnership with Tradifrin Easttown Township, so we're excited about that partnership and that being successful. And of course, Christina Rios has been, excellent. This is a very busy time of year when we have so many users trying to get on the fields. And, we're trying to temper that because we have days that look like today outside, but then days like, a day ago where it was 80 degrees, and trying to manage all of the spaces, in terms of all the schedules and everything, not only with the fields and the picnic areas, but still with Radnor Activity Center also. And then she's also leading a lot of programs. So I just want to take a moment and take a step back and recognize all of them for their efforts. I know Bakir brought up Radnor Youth Basketball. Bob Nicholas, who is a community volunteer of the last 30 plus years, who is responsible for creating Radnor Youth Basketball. He has also been involved, as many of you know, in Radnor Wayne Little League, Radnor Soccer Club, Troop 284, and he has done so much for our community. I want to recognize he just recently put together a stained glass seal, Radnor Township seal, that if you walk out the doors here to the right, and if you look at towards the foyer, you'll see the stained glass that we just installed this week. Bob Nicholas spent the last 2 years putting that together. So I really want to encourage everybody to look at it on their way out, and then we're going to be probably doing some type of recognition soon on that. We're going to be inviting the board members, but I want to continue to also just celebrate Bob and all of his time and efforts as a volunteer, especially with Radnor Youth Basketball, which is a major, major undertaking. And I want to give the board an update also. Jay Jr., who is with us tonight, I know he's been visiting a lot of the meetings. He's going to be appointed, we anticipate, by the Board of Commissioners on the 23rd. So he'll be joining you all up there on the dais. And Jay comes with a great background. He serves on the Radnor Conservancy Board, very active in Radnor Girls Lacrosse. So we're going to be excited for him to be part of this team. And we'll be looking forward to him starting on April 9th at our next meeting. So thanks, Jay, for all the time and efforts that you've put in so far and all that's yet to come. Just as far as a couple of other updates, one of them I wanted to actually show an update, an image. So I'm gonna take the Give me a second even to bring this up. So as a lot of you know, the Skunk Hollow Bridge and the Skunk Hollow parking lot has been closed. I know that Steve Norsini had a meeting in that area just the other day, and he had to unlock the gate to get down into that area. And when he did, there were 2 vehicles that followed him because people are just so used to using that parking area. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to not only take an opportunity to share with the board just some of the reasonings as to why. So the Skunk Hollow Bridge, which is really a culvert when you go down over the steep hill off of Darby Paoli Road, has a structure that has significant undermining, and it has wing walls that are completely cracked. I'm not showing you images of that. This is something that I'm going to talk about in a second. But as of our discussions and meetings that we've had this week with our engineering team, unfortunately, there's not going to be a temporary usage in that area. We're not going to be able to, put steel plates over it and secure it in some way that we can, take lighter weight vehicles over it. It's just not in a situation to be able to allow that from a safety standpoint. So we're going to have to create a temporary access. In doing that, what has been discussed so far is, hence the image that's in front of you, coming in off of the Willows exit near the pond. So if you're on the exit drive on the pond, heading out of the Willows, as you can see based on the image that I have above, what's going to happen is we're going to have a temporary access point that's going to come in. So here's the mansion. It's going to come into the park. As you know, there's some pretty large boulders that are here in this area. It's a little narrow. The boulders are going to have to be moved out of the way, and the temporary access drive is going to come in and through this area, and then this is basically the Skunk Hollow Garden. So just to the north of the Skunk Hollow Garden, where there's a very big garden operation that takes place in the spring, leading all the way to the fall. And we'll come in and access the mulch area and the operation that we have at Skunk Hollow through this particular cartway. We're looking at doing more of like a grass roadway that has, I don't know if you've ever seen the porous sheets that have grass that grow up through them, so it has a very natural look that will comprise part or most of what this is going to look like. There's obviously going to be some clearing and things that are going to have to happen. Our township manager, our township engineer, and our public works director are working through this process now to determine what that's going to look like. I know we have a meeting on Monday, we're going to start to kind of dig into it a little bit more, because without having access in and out of Skunk Hollow, it's impossible to, get in and out of there to make deliveries and, bring all the debris and everything that comes in and out of that area, on a daily basis, really, here as we start the spring, and then, as you know, especially in the fall when we have the leaf removal that happens. So I just wanted to make sure the board had an opportunity to get a chance to see this and ask any questions, but also more just a public notice so everybody is aware.
I had to look at the bridge. It definitely has been kind of weakened over time. This is one of the more long-range questions. That access to get to that bridge has always been challenging with that curve to get down in. Has there been discussion to reroute that entrance perhaps instead of going the current route?
We are having that discussion, yes. We are going to look at, given that we now have kind of worked into understanding that a temporary access can't happen in the current location, and that we're going to have a temporary to potentially permanent access that might happen here at the Willows, which we're going to want to evaluate long-term, because we're not talking about a project that can be done in a couple months. This requires a lot of design. It requires DEP permitting, Fish and Boat Commission permitting.
How many
so
years? How many years roughly to get a new bridge? 2 years, 3 years?
Hopefully one.
Wow.
But, hopefully sooner versus later. I mean, obviously, as the project unfolds and, we get to design, a lot of this is something that's going to happen out of, emergency processes and emergency fundings is something that we're going to speed along quickly. But with that, also want to look at how can we either, recreate a safe access, basically where the existing area is down off of Darby-Paoli Road, or create a new access that potentially could lead along Darby-Paoli Road, maybe parallel to, where the little parking lot is off of Sawmill.
Is this an opportunity to have a safer access?
It is, and we are going to do our best to take advantage of that. So those conversations are going to be starting on Monday. We're going to start looking at that to see what we can do.
And the other bridge construction begins when for the replacement of the bridge over the creek?
We're still not even in design.
Oh, but
So this is a culvert too,
but
like
for
I
the
want to kind of
actual-
get away from
the
calling it
The Sawmill Bridge, when is that going to be replaced?
2027. It's in design right now. We don't have a timeline, a date.
But for the road that travels over the sawmill that goes to, the road is supposed to be replaced, the bridge is supposed to be replaced, right?
Yes, that is another project that is in its design
2027.
phase. It's that's a Delaware County bridge, so Delaware County is working on that. Yeah, so but this obviously this is going to be a process. And it'll involve, like I said, there's a lot of pieces. So whereas before, I think the structure probably has been there maybe since the 1960s or 70s, maybe when we acquired the property, it's a little bit of a different project today because of the requirements for, highway access, code compliancy. It'll be a different looking structure. And it is a culvert, but is going to have sidewalls and things like that on it, so it will take on a little bit of a different look. The good news is, we're trying to expedite this out of stormwater funding, given it is a stormwater feature. So all of that will be to be determined, and a lot of those approval points are going to go directly to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
Tammy, in terms of the temporary road, are we talking months on that? We anticipate months between now and when it's operable.
I think best case scenario could be by the end of the year, maybe into 2027.
I know it's impossible to do.
What I'll
Just
plan to
trying
do is update
still-
this board as we know. So as we start, as we get into, when design is beginning and then design, goes into bidding, I will keep you updated on where we are.
And the township has alternatives to that field for mulch and debris and whatnot? Where does the township have access to other places for mulch and whatnot?
We don't, hence the temporary access point through the willows.
But we'll have that within weeks, I would think that would be.
We're going to be working on that
accessible.
really soon.
Okay.
Because as of right now, that turns around and puts the operations on hold.
Okay. From that, are we still in the reports section?
We're still in reports. What I can do is I can jump into Fenimore right now, since we're kind of talking about that, and I have an update on Fenimore. I'm not going to go back through all the slides that we looked at last month, but I am going to pick up where we left off, just to show you the progress that's been made. So I figured since I have those up, I can do that. So what you're looking at is a lot of the progress that's being made. You can see the cupolas and a lot of the sheathing. Obviously, there's still some snow on the ground during those. Here you could see a lot of the rough-ins for electrical that have been done, the carve-outs for the windows, plumbing fixtures and everything that are interior have been installed. I think maybe you saw some of these last month also, doors that have been delivered. So I'll just kind of forward along here a little bit. So these are some of the more recent pictures to show more of the rough-ins that have taken place in terms of the interior electrical. As a matter of fact, we're at a point where we just had electrical inspected and all of that take place. You can see a lot of the Tyvek on the exterior of the building. It's really starting to look like something now. The building as of right now is airtight from a roofing standpoint. We do anticipate by the middle of next week, the windows will all be in, so the sidewalls will all be airtight as well. And that's a little bit of an update there, moving according to schedule. We also have some siding and exterior that's been affixed
There's
to
an
the.
attic space in there as well, for storage? Is there a second level for storage?
There, it's not an accessible,
It
it's
won't
not,
be
it won't be
with
accessible,
stairs.
no.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of that update.
Is there, is this under a contract basis, or who's doing the construction?
This was bid, this was a township bid.
Okay, okay. I didn't-
And, yeah, this was a bid project back in April.
Okay,
I'm not sure if you recall, but we bid it, it was very far over.
okay.
We reconstructed some of it in terms of how it was outlined, and we rebid it again, came in within bid. And right now, so Davis Construction is the current contractor that's
Okay.
working on this.
And like, from the township, who's supervising it, or who's overseeing it?
So it's I would say the township is, our
Okay.
department is. Steve's doing some of it with regards to some of the inspections, with regards to electrical
Yeah.
and plumbing and all of that, but as far as overseeing. So this is a multi-prime contract, so even though there's a GC that's in charge of doing not only the building work and the construction, but also the site work, because there's septic tanks that are going to be inlaid, of course, next to the building and adjacent to the building. We also have a plumbing prime and we have an electrical prime.
Oh, okay.
So they answer to us as well and not to the GC.
I'm just 8 steps behind life. I don't know, I didn't know.
It's all good. It's complex. So we're excited that the project continues to move forward. You know, despite the weather, there's been plenty of progress that has taken place even during the really cold temperatures. And on Monday, I anticipate the pavilion work will start to get back underway.
That's great.
So we're working through the pavilion as well. And now that, you know, even though it snowed today, you know, I think the ground is soft enough, we're going to start to pour concrete forms for the columns and everything. There's 8 columns that go along with, of course, the pavilion, and that work will resume.
When would that pavilion be available for rentals or use?
Hopefully, well, the pavilion conceivably can be constructed and finalized by spring. And when I say that, I mean by, you know, April, May, but we also have access. So because of the concurrent work that's going on with the stable, and the stable has its staging that uses the parking lot, and the parking lot still has to be renovated. Okay, so the parking lot's in really bad shape right now. That's part of the comprehensive plan. So that is still part of this project that has to get done before the pavilion can become usable, as well as the pathway to get there and make it accessible. So those phases all still need to occur in sequence, because we can't do that until the stable work is done. So that'll follow on the heels of the stable work getting done. And we're probably looking at summer by this point.
Summer, okay. And the pond is on hiatus for now with long-term plans?
Need funding.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that last month.
We're still, it's in our minds about what's next, right?
It's always in our minds.
All right,
It's always on my mind.
there you go. So are you going to do anything more on the Fenimore updates, or did you want to bounce to another?
No, I can jump back
back.
down to my seat for now.
Just to close out reports, was there anything specific from Shade Tree Committee or other reports or Board of Commissioners we needed to address to close that?
I'll let Howard go ahead and report on commissioners. I just want to go talk to Ian real quick on something.
Nothing to report.
Thanks, Howard. Is there anything else for the Shade Tree Committee or other reports that we needed to know from you, Howard? No. Okay. Well, I think we're in limbo somewhat, waiting for Tammy to come back. There's only new business tonight for the board?
No new business, but just a quick, bless you, but just a quick update on the Shade Tree Committee. I think the biggest update right now is just that they are planning to have their what do you call it, the spring tree planting on April 18th. So look for more information on that. I'm just looking at my phone because I was trying to get the last update that we've had. I know there's going to be continued planting at the Willows in
Great.
the Milwaukee Forest area. That's there just on the exit drive to the southern portion of the park.
And just one last thing in reports, you have the Trout Derby, which is a huge event as well. That's also same weekend, right? April 18th, or near there?
It is, yes, and the Trout Derby is sold out, so if anyone is looking to join our wait list, please give us a call, because we do have people that ultimately end up declining the event, you know, between now leading up to it.
But that's a great one. It's well attended usually too, and sold out. So no new business, so we're going to move on to old business and Odoricio.
I guess maybe I should have just stayed here. All right. So let me just get this presentation going. I have some slides I want to show you guys. Ian, just give me a second to get this sort of loaded. I think we have a lot of stuff on here that's jamming it up. Oh, give me a second. All right, I'm not sure how that'll come out on the screen, Ian, if you you want to put that on. We'll see where that is. Okay. So we talked a lot about odoriceo at the February meeting. The Parks and Recreation Board, of course, made a recommendation to move the Comprehensive Improvements Project Concept Plan onto the Board of Commissioners so that they can start to look at it and review for funding. While we noted that some of the specifics of the project we know needed to be developed, so i.e. things like the playground, the pavilion, and some of the more specific detail with regards to the dugouts and the storage. So tonight, I wanted to talk a little bit about the playground. I hope that, on the horizon, maybe we can start to engage some of the residents in some specific meetings where they're solicited to maybe join a Zoom or maybe come meet in this room or a combination thereof, just to start engaging those conversations on some of the specifics and what can basically comprise the playground and the features. I know we received an array of feedback. We heard from folks that they wanted to see inclusive playgrounds, fitness playgrounds, nature playgrounds. There's really a lot of great ideas, and the great thing about it is we have a lot of space to work with. Odoriceo in the park really offers us a lot of freedom and almost a blank canvas of sorts on which to work with. A lot of the playground companies today are, they're doing a lot of creative things, where they're blending nature-based features. Most are all being designed so that they're inclusive. So that there's lots of different things for everybody because, there's so many people that are using the spaces. And I think for us, what's really important is to start engaging the public because we want to build something that people are going to use and recognize that, the dynamics in certain neighborhoods are different than others. So we want to really try and dig into that understanding a little bit more, and then that'll allow us to, get to a design that we feel comfortable with and obviously, start to cost that out as part of the project. We did a survey a couple years ago. We asked people what they wanted to see in the project overall, and aside from the bathrooms being renovated, the second thing that people wanted to see really was the playground being improved. So we know that's a key feature. And they wanted to see expanded in new features. I know we heard things about spray grounds and all kinds of different things, recognizing that that's not really feasible, but know that there's a blend of things that we want to be able to create, essentially. So I just wanted to kind of zone in a little bit on the concept plan. We kind of ended up moving into a design that we flipped the playground and the pavilion, which is, just the comfort station now, leaving us with sort of the space over here, roughly 3,000 square feet that would comprise the playground area. And we have a lot of wiggle room in here. We can slide the pavilion, within a certain distance. We can expand the size of the playground to fit what our needs end up looking like. And the same way would go with regards to the pavilion too, which is some of the detail that our designer is starting to work through. So with regards to the design, I know we're talking about the playground, but I do want to note that, designing a new playground, designing the new pavilion, designing the parking lots, we are going to be subject to our stormwater management fees at this point. So whatever next steps we end up taking in terms of a schematic design, which at this point is going to go beyond the design concept that we already have, developed and paid for through our through Greenhouse, which was our designer that prepared this for us. Anything beyond that, of course, is going to be, it's going to be an additional cost, basically. We're moving on to the next step. So we really want to make sure we can take a plan that here we've got 40,000 feet elevation. We want to bring it down to 15,000 feet elevation so we can really start to figure out how are these features going to work and where is the stormwater going to go? Because we know we have a significant issue with runoff coming down onto the baseball field that needs to be corrected. We know we have a lot of improvements here that we need to make to be able to help that. But the question then becomes is, where does the stormwater go? And I know based on some of the existing stormwater concerns we have in the southern portion of the park with the residents that border the park down on this area, we know there's already significant stormwater runoff coming from the woods coming from the park, so we really don't want to exacerbate that. So that puts us in a situation where we're going to have to figure out how do we discharge the water that happens as a result of these new features. You know, does it go towards West Wayne Avenue? Are there a series of rain gardens that it flows to? Are there underground systems? So all of that has got to really be flushed out because there could be a magnitude of cost there that we need to understand. So that'll really end up being those next steps. And I bring that up because things like the playground, like the pavilion, are features that are definitely going to have to be subject to our stormwater ordinances as a township. And just as a reminder, we have the Delco Greenways grant, which was $100,000. We so far have spent approximately $35,000 to develop the concept design, which we've had various iterations of. We have the survey, which was approximately $20,000 in survey fees, which I'm not sure we spent it all because we didn't really survey the woods in detail because we knew we weren't going to do too much with that space. So we definitely have some money to work with going on into that next phase, should we choose to do that, which I think we all know in unison, you know, we want to really drill in and figure out what this is going to cost. So that's going to be an important next step in the process as well. Again, there'll be approvals that the Board of Commissioners will ultimately see, and I will keep you updated as we go along in that process. So just taking a little bit of a look, and I know I'm talking about stormwater and playgrounds, and you're wondering why I got off on that tangent. Again, it's just because I want to make sure that you kind of understand. Right now, we don't have a stormwater pipe. This is just a sanitary pipe that runs through West Wayne, so if we end up trying to discharge water in this direction, somehow these stormwater pipes that exist up here around Highland Avenue and, of course, Liberty Lane and Friends of Radnor Trails Park, somehow we might be able to extend those so that, you know, we can help stormwater overall in this area. So it might be a win-win. It might be part of the project that actually is helped through the stormwater fund. So that's something I have on my to-do list to talk with Steve Norsini about, because just like we have a very long Parks Capital funding plan, we have a very long stormwater funding plan as well, which probably triples the Parks plan. So I just want to kind of give a little bit of context there. So I wanted to kind of just click through some playground ideas. I recognize that a lot of this is I'm going to do this again once we have residents together, but I want to do this for the board as well. We started looking at some of these things when we had one of our RTCA meetings. I don't know if you remember the one where I brought the projector and was trying to show some images and things. So some of this is, going to be a repeat of that, but I just want to kind of step through some of the features so we could just see some of the creative things that have been done. And some of them that I'm showing right now really show the natural aspects and the wooded aspects of the parks, just to give you some ideas. This doesn't mean we're going to build a playground that has a Bigfoot riding through it. This is just for idea generation solely. Okay, so like anything I'm going to show you tonight is not a design we're going to build at Odorrcio Park. I want to make sure that that's clear. These are ideas only.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
What is that circular thing in the middle?
It's basically it's a net. It's a netting system that you can crawl on and crawl up and crawl on. It looks fun to me.
And then just another quick question. Would all of them include some type of soft, permeable surface like that?
So poured-in-place surface would be one of the goals, but I will say that I know that one of the goals of the project also is to be a natural-looking playground, and the EWF surfacing that you see that looks like wood chips. It's engineered wood fiber, EWF. We could use that as well if we wanted the natural feature. The only thing I would say is that even though currently it's recognized as being ADA and accessible, if you've ever tried to take a wheelchair through it, it's not going to work. And I think slowly it's something that in the world of Parks and Recreation is not going to be an ADA feature. So
Because Clemacrone has that type of surface now.
poured-in-place surfacing. The poured-in-place surfacing that we have is at Enki and at Clemacrone.
Yeah.
Those were our two first projects we've ever done here with poured-in-place surfacing, which has had its pros and cons also. I could do a dissertation on those, so we'll stay away from that topic right now. So here's just some of the playgrounds that have had natural-based wooded features to them, not necessarily in the playground. It's still commercial equipment that's made out of, different types of, metals and resins and things like that, but it gives you an idea of the setting in which that they can be crafted within, to give them more of a natural base feature. So here, obviously, you see a playground that has 2 trees embedded within it, so there's obviously a degree of creativity that went into that. But then some of these features here are more commercial-based features, not actual stone and rocks. They're actual, manufactured obstacles. So I just wanted to kind of float through some of these. I thought there were some creative designs and aspects that we could take a look at. Some of the surfacing that you see here is turf-based, so it does have a poured-in-place surfacing under it that allows for the safety and the fall attenuation that's needed, especially given the size of some of these decks and things that you see where you have to be able to have the safety compression. So you can see there's a lot of creative things that have been done. We could get the names of these places and go out on a tour if you're interested. So I'd be happy to share some of those. So there's some really creative things that we can definitely generate some ideas on. If there's any you want me to go back through, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each of them, but you can see some have taken place within some really nice natural settings, and it's a mixture of real natural wooded features and landscaping and different types of things like that, as well as manufactured obstacles that look natural.
Tammy, the only thing I would say is that I think some of them have that, I don't want to call it tarp, but shade protection. And if this area isn't going to have mature trees at any short term, that might be something to prioritize.
It is. It's on there. Definitely is one of the things we'll be doing is getting shade structures. We know how important those have been for folks. So as you can see here, there's some elevated sand features and, large commercial-based designed sandboxes that seem to be really popular today. I know that obviously Landscape Structures, which is one of the biggest playground manufacturers in the country, I know they have a lot of these in a lot of locations, and they're built so they can be accessible and, a lot of fun for folks. You could see this one on the left, actually, Jenna had shared with me from East Goshen. I didn't realize that they had one that had fossils actually embedded into it. This is a Landscape Structures playground that they had built some time ago. So they can be small, they can be large, we can figure out sizing and all of that if this was a feature we wanted to have. And then here you see some of the more manufactured, balance beams and stuff like that have basically a natural look. Logs and things, for kids to play and run through, and you can even have sliding boards, obviously, that can take on a wooded natural look. So there's some creative things that were done.
Would this be a bid process as well for this?
I wouldn't recommend it be a bid process. Sorry, I keep bumping that. So when we built Clemacrone, we bid it, and then the general contractor that bid on the project managed the entire playground project. Mm-hmm. So the township didn't do that. They were the manager of it. In doing that, not only did we not get CoStar's pricing, which is a cooperative purchasing pricing for the playground and its installation, but then we also paid the GC to do it, to basically manage it. So to save money, I wouldn't recommend it. I would say we would manage it. And
the
township,
installation.
we would manage it A to Z.
So these entities would provide the design and the equipment, but they wouldn't do the install?
They have certified installers.
Okay,
So,
come out to-
right, so what would happen is, so like Landscape Structures, for instance, they have their own installers. Playworld Systems has their own installers. Game Time has their own installers. And when we purchase equipment and we purchase surfacing, which is oftentimes a separate manufacturer as well, what we can also do is purchase the installation, and then that all gets rolled into a cooperative purchasing price that the township is able to get because we're a member of different cooperative bidding organizations. So that allows us to get like a negotiated rate that basically it's a long way of saying like we can basically get, percentage off of what the manufacturer's price is on a lot of these things.
And the
5% discount, 10% discounts.
The equipment selection would be from their stock. It wouldn't be generally custom designed.
Some of it can be custom if we wanted it to be. That's where we start to get into a lot of heavy pricing. So a lot of these log features and things that you see, some of that stuff is some customized items. So it just depends on what we ultimately end up wanting.
Are there resources that members of the community could look at in the vast collection of things from those companies that kind of get their check boxes of things that they want?
They
Before they
can,
come?
absolutely. They can go to Game Time's website, they can go to Landscape Structures website, they can go to Play World Structures website, and there's catalog after catalog on there. There's natural features, basic, your basic playgrounds, inclusive features, everything that those manufacturers sell are out there, along with examples of what they've done across the country and across the world, a lot of them.
So the community request is going to be general theming too, like what they're going for, so.
Yeah, my recommendation would be is like, I'd like to, as I mentioned early on in this presentation, is just, I'd like to engage everyone that we've had engaged already, and give them an opportunity, maybe to sort of pre-look at those things.
Pre-look.
And then jump on a Zoom with me and have an actual meeting where I can flip through a lot of these things and get a consensus on, I don't know that a consensus is going to be easy, but get ideas on what people would like to see, and what types of features, and then start to bring together a plan, and then bring it, present it, and then we'll, kind of flush it out from there to see what people like. The only thing I would say is that some manufacturers offer certain things and others don't, so it's difficult to mix and match. But a lot of times there's features that overlap. So for instance, I don't know if you've ever heard of folks in the community, they like the elevator. So there's the elevator at Clemacrone and there's the elevator at Enke Park. So it's basically a drop zone that you stand on from the second deck, and it, with hydraulics, lowers you to the ground. Only Play World Systems makes that particular piece of equipment.
And the pavilion would be a pre-made too? The pavilion structure would be a pre-made structure?
It can be, or it can be designed and built and customized as well. Again, that's a more expensive route to go. I would suggest a prefab, prefab similar to some of the other structures that we have. And again, just like playground equipment, there's different brands within pavilions and park bathrooms that, will range all the way from, the Cadillac to the Chevy type of thing.
What would be the timeline for re-engaging with the neighbors for their feedback?
I'd like to do it soon, within the next month or two. And it doesn't necessarily have to overlap with this. I mean, it can overlap with this group. We can invite the community to come out in April and look at some of this stuff. Or sometime between now and April, May, I can actually set up a community Zoom for people to participate in. It's a tough time of year, because as soon as you have a really nice day, you lose everybody.
Yeah, that'd be great to get the pre-work done and just get the ball rolling, having them look at the opportunities for what they can put in and move it along.
So I'm just going to kind of keep going through some of these things, if that's okay. This was just a slide that basically is just talking about some of the challenges and, children that have disabilities and the statistics that, we see across the nation today. We see this in Radnor Day Camp and all of our programming. Obviously, this isn't new information, but we know we want to design a space where every child can feel like there's something for them there. Universal design is critical, for all ages, all abilities, that include sensory environments, natural environments, places where they can socialize, right alongside with their peers. But ultimately, at the end of the day, having something where everybody feels, included and feels that there's something for them. Obviously, that looks different to every community. If you have communities that have higher, usage by, autistic kids, for instance, you might have a different interest based on what people want to see. By the same token, we also don't have really core focused playgrounds across the township in that area. So we have some features in some of our newer playgrounds, especially at Clemacrone and Enke, because they're newer builds. But it might be a good consideration now that we're doing Odoricio to really consider blending a lot of different features where people can come to that site to be able to get the things that are missing at places like Cowan or South Devon or Petrie and things like that. Although Petrie has a really great Weesaw, which is a great inclusive obstacle, if you've ever been over there to see it. So from an inclusive standpoint, this just shows some of the variety. You know, you end up having, you know, tactile features, climbing features, things where that you can have sight stimulation, hearing stimulation, all of that. I'll show you some of those examples here soon, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea. You know, a lot of these have lower level decking and things like that where there's accessibility. For persons with a wheelchair. You also have musical features, things that test, you know, tactile abilities and sight abilities and things like that, where a lot of those features are really critical to a lot of kids. Lots of different types of things like adaptive swings, which are really important. I had mentioned the We Saw, which is this item up here, which we do have over at Petrie. There's the sway glider. There's different things where you can, you know, kind of challenge and be able to engage gross motor skills, fine motor skills. So you can see there's really just a lot of things that can be available for, you know, different types of interests and abilities. Our communication boards, which, as you know, we have at Clemacrone also, and at Enki, those are things we're going to want to repeat at all of our playgrounds moving forward, similar to the sunshades. We want to make sure that for nonverbal children, there is that opportunity where they have those communication boards available. So here's just some other ideas. This is actually the We Saw over at Petrie. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of these. If you have any questions, let me know. Now, these are some of our playground designers were very zealous. They started to take a look at this, and they started to put together some concepts for us. These still need to be looked at. These are just, meaning these still need to be like, you know, they're not final. This isn't being built at Odoriccio, but these are some of the first drafts that they started to put together. So again, conceptual only. There'll be features that we can mix and match, of course, with all of these if we chose to. So this happens to be something that Landscape Structures had just put together for us based on some of the site plans that I had given them. I'm a big fan of us, you know, kind of taking our time and picking out things that we want to see. But here's the sandbox feature that was similar to what they did in East Goshen with the standing and elevated sand area, as well as the open area for the kids to play. And this is Game Time. So Game Time was so kind to start putting their artistic blend to what they would like to see, just to give us some ideas and examples. And all these features have, you know, they have names and, you know, ways these pieces of equipment work that we could definitely get into and talk about in more detail in a more specialized meeting. And this kind of jumps to some of the fitness equipment. So I'll maybe stop here. But fitness equipment is definitely something that we heard about as well. And I mean, overall, you know, one could make an argument that some of the basic playground features are fitness-based, but some, as you could see, are a little bit more specific, you know, and offer, you know, more fitness-related features. So I guess unless you have any questions, I think we'll look to having maybe a little bit more of a specialized meeting where we invite folks out to talk a little bit more specifically about the playground or, you know, find some different ways to engage, you know, by Zoom and things like that.
I have a generic question. I mean, I would like all of these things. I think
know what
they're
you're
all
gonna ask.
wonderful. And when can we put them in? But give me, let me know the process here. The one thing that you started out with is the stormwater, and that's a pew in our church, and these are all great ideas and they're wonderful, and we can all maybe even someday, if I'm still alive, we can agree on them. But to get this project done, it seems to me that the stormwater is going to be a big problem. And Mesa, am I making that up, or it just seems to me that we're, I don't know. I'm frustrated only because I want all these things, and I want agreement, and I want everybody to be happy. But it just seems to me that I'm not sure the process. Tell me the process. How about that?
Well, I mean, stormwater has been a part of this project when we started it.
Right.
You know, we knew heading into this project when we were talking about, you know, creating accessible pathways and reconstructing parking lots, renovating a pavilion that's in roughly 3,000 square feet of space, that's impervious space, pavilion, et cetera. We knew that stormwater management was something we were going to have to not only manage for all these features that currently exist, but also we know we have an erosion problem happening that we have to stop. Because otherwise the field's going to continue to get washed out, the trees are going to continue to get blown out with runoff, as we see, you know, where we have tons of trenching that continues to happen. So that's been a core part of the project from the beginning.
But we're going to have that stormwater problem whether we have one of these items or all of the items. And does it make sense to deal with the stormwater right now? And you even said we had money. I don't know where that came from, but I mean, it seems to me stormwater might be a focus, or am I?
So any of the improvements to the park that happen as and need stormwater mitigation are going to come from the park project. When I mentioned there's money for stormwater, that has to do with being able to create stormwater flow on West Wayne Avenue. So if I go back to the original slide that I was showing you, let's go back to that. Like this, not having
Right,
a connection here, that is a stormwater project,
right.
potentially. I don't, again, I have to get with Steve Norsini and see where that fits in the,
But we're going to have to do
concern.
that anyway, right?
it may happen at some point on the horizon. With this project, we may be able to get that done sooner and help this project be able to achieve its goals by creating inlets essentially along West Wayne Avenue that can take the water.
That would be part of the project.
Be part of the stormwater at that point, because we would be making this connection along West Wayne. Anything we would do inside the park would come as a result of the project. So if we ended up doing, for example, an underground basin
Right.
under the new parking lots, or if we did vegetative swales, or if we installed some type of rain garden or chain, daisy chain rain gardens together like we've done at Clemacrone, those would all come as a byproduct of the project cost.
So the project has to start, and that would coincide with the stormwater.
So what will happen as a result of us understanding all of the improvements we want to make, which in concept, we kind of have a pretty good idea.
Okay.
But once we start getting into the details, so like right now, if the playground area is roughly 3,000 square foot, and we've got to make it 3,500 or 4,000 because we know we want XYZ program, then what'll happen is the engineers, which is, not my world, will run calculations in terms of how the stormwater moves and it flows, and they'll figure out what exactly the calculation need is to move the water, and then figure out where it needs to go, how grading needs to be.
So we
Situated.
have to start, or somebody has to start the project before we really deal with it. Okay.
But that's why I was referencing a schematic design. Like a schematic design in detail will be really helpful, because that means our design team that built a concept will now work with an engineering team to really determine like where and how we can best move stormwater. So for instance, like rain gardens are a great feature, but we've also seen them not function throughout other projects.
Right.
And we've had to renovate them, as we just saw in the last year over at Clemacrone, because they weren't functioning. We have the 3 that are out here at the Township building that were never maintained, that were not functioning. So there has to be a plan for that. So if we decide we're going to use rain gardens, we need to make sure we have a maintenance plan to make them functional. Plus, some of that has to do with ground percolation too. Making sure that, from a geotechnical sense, the ground can actually like manage all of that. Otherwise, maybe the options are just building underground features. But I would say the first process is the park project, which we've all been working on.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
intently.
I just didn't see where this stormwater I just see the stormwater being a giant pain, but that's maybe my,
I think it's just part and parcel with the project, as it has been with any project that we've really done. Aside from Fenimore, which has just been in-kind improvements. So if we jump back to Clemacrone, we had, things moving around and bigger playground and, lots of things that changed the dynamic in terms of the stormwater management that was needed as a result of the construction. And we'll be doing similar here.
Well, it sounds like an opportunity that's been overdue to deal with the stormwater. I know we like to put all the money we can into the equipment for the park, but it's been long overdue in that park to deal with the stormwater, and might also have some adjacent benefits for the residents neighboring, given the absence of storm sewers and things like that. So
Yes,
it's an opportunity as well as a burden.
Exactly, and I think, Steve could probably opine a little bit more on what the stormwater issues are along West Wayne. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I know that we've had significant stormwater problems closer up towards Conestoga, hence the West Wayne Preserve Project, hence the Friends of Radnor Trails underground basin that we just constructed. So I'm not sure, I think in theory, those have mitigated the problem along here, but I'm not so sure if that's been the case. We haven't seen a really big storm in a while, knock on wood.
Were you planning to go on to the Brookside Avenue sidewalk update?
I was going to offer Howard, since that's a Board of Commissioners item, if you wanted to give an update on that. I'm happy to, but you can jump in there since I know it was just addressed by the board on Monday.
Well, if you know more of the details than I did, I know that, they came up with the funding and things like that, so, and they looked closer at the diagram and where it was coming down, and they got permission from the neighbors to have that put in there. But I think that's the most I've gotten out of it. That off the top of my head anyway.
Sure, so this is a follow-up item. Obviously, I made the presentation at the last meeting. This was on the Board of Commissioners agenda on Monday. So as Howard was referring to, there was a budget appropriation that went towards this project. So let me explain a little bit of the background on that. So in roughly 2016, we had money that was donated from Penn Medicine to make improvements at Veterans and First Responders Park. When we had developed a plan, this board at that time had spent a couple of years developing a plan that was a celebration of veterans with a memorial area and a paver project. We were working in unison with the American Legion. As time went on with that project, only a portion of the fundraising, which was done to what I think was calculated to be about $1 million project to make these improvements at Veterans Park. So approximately $250,000 was given by Penn Medicine to go towards that project. Essentially, long story short, we worked with the American Legion for years to sort of try to develop their aspect of it, our aspect of it, to try to marry together this memorial celebration. And the American Legion just was not in a position to financially commit to us. So I had went to their board, made a presentation, and they, while they had interest in the project and everything that it celebrates, they were just not in a position to make any commitment towards it. So that kind of left the township at that point on its own. So this money that was sitting there from Penn Medicine has been championed to basically go now over to the project of Brookside and connecting to the trail. And on Monday's agenda, I'll just read it, authorizing an amendment to the 2026 appropriation budget to include appropriations for Brookside Trail Access Project in the Capital Improvement Fund to be funded by the transfer of $250,000 plus the allocated interest previously donated by Penn Medicine from the escrow fund to the Capital Improvement Fund, essentially to go towards trying to achieve this project. So we talked about design and some of the pieces and stages that need to be done. Penn Medicine did agree to this. I think our township manager and our finance director had a discussion with them to make sure that they were it was satisfactory to take this money they had given towards Veterans Park, move it towards this project, given it's in the same ward and same geographic location, has, benefit for residents. And that was the approval that was given on Monday night. So, so that's continuing to move into its design phase at this point.
Is that the project we talked about last week? Is this the sidewalk
feels
to
like last
nowhere? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. This the one that goes up to the trail and stops, and there was a sort of a negative approach from this board towards that. And so the commissioners said they would approve it out of this fund. So, okay.
So, yeah,
Any recommendations we had would not have made any difference. We got outranked. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, and my goal tonight was just to close the subject. I don't want to close it sorely, but I just want to close it so that you're aware of what the next step has been. So what will happen now is we'll work on an RFP, myself and Steve Norsini, and we'll end up engaging a designer to look at it, evaluate it, tell us what it's going to cost, and then figure out at that point if I'm not sure that $250,000 will cover all of that.
I got it. It's
we'll-
great. I understand.
I'm happy to keep you updated if you have questions on it, but I will remove it from the agenda next month.
I would move that it remain on the agenda and keep updating us on this.
You got it.
I mean, if one question I have was, is there any kind of discussion, I didn't see the meeting, and maybe Howard, this is for you, about other projects that have been sort of festering or floating out there and sort of maybe addressing something that was maybe in front of this one in line?
I think what happened was that there were a couple of neighbors that had addressed that issue. And then when they got the funding, like Tammy said, from Penn Medicine, and they had no problems with saying, okay, it's just sitting there now, we can throw those funds over there towards this to possibly see if they can get done. That's the way I think it went. There was concerned about a safety issue about crossing that street,
Right.
which was very high on the neighbors in that area.
Right.
And I think it just went that way.
So there wasn't like a comparison of other projects or discussion about other projects where this money could have been allocated otherwise?
No, it wasn't an issue of whether or not they were taking money from anything else.
No, but I mean, money hasn't been given to anything else, so it's kind of hard to say it's being taken from anything else. What I'm saying, was there any consideration into the other projects, maybe having them be addressed instead of this one?
No,
Okay.
no.
All right, well, while I got you on the mic, I think I saw a headline about Valley Forge Military Academy and a change in approach. Yep, sorry, got you. I guess you have an update on that.
You know I'm new to this, right?
Like I told you, heavy is the head that wears the crown. So,
Yeah.
You're in the hot seat.
Go ahead, do your thing.
anyways, I wasn't able to click on the article. Is there any update?
And Tammy would probably know more of the details than me did, because it seems to be going back and forth. But apparently, they've agreed to our terms with this right of first refusal, and we wanted to get 5 years in there. That was one of the major things that they accepted, and to cut off communications with the other people that were involved in it.
Okay.
So it seems to be, that seems to be the consensus now, as I know it,
Okay.
in a nutshell for me.
Sounds good. All right, thank you.
And Tammy might have more on that than me.
The only thing I would add to that is that we expect potentially, so first of all, the ordinance of eminent domain was tabled on Monday night's agenda for the Board of Commissioners, and then it was tabled because Valley Forge did agree to have, discussion and agreement for a right of first refusal for the township in terms of the property within a 5-year window. And that agreement, I anticipate, will be on the Board of Commissioners' agenda on March 23rd, potentially, if in fact we end up, agreeing to that and signing that. And, then that gives us an opportunity to keep discussions going with Valley Forge about possible ways we can work together on the land, recognizing that the portion of the land that we were proposing to eminent domain is actually a portion of the land they need to operate the two-year college. And there may be another portion of the land that works to our benefit that we can work with them on. So those conversations will continue, and this is a way to keep that going. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the stop development. I think, the neighbors in that area and that section of the township are fatigued, to say the least, on, development occurring. They've also watched Valley Forge and their property be spliced off in a number of different ways, and sliced and diced, and sold off. And I think there's definitely concern to that. And overall, as you know, we've recently conducted a comprehensive plan throughout the township where we know we want to preserve open space. I know the papers are reporting all kinds of crazy things. They're talking about the developments happening, and we're building a rec center and all kinds of stuff, and none of that is happening. We really just want to preserve the open space. If the community ultimately was to decide that the space could be for a rec center, so be it. If they didn't, then we would obviously continue to look at alternative methods for that, whether that's improving Sulpizio ultimately or looking at a different location. So I would just caution to what you read.
And the eastern field, does that have any community use at all? Do we use that at all for
Eastern Field,
the former Valley Forge Mill Academy field that they're,
the 33 acres that Eastern just acquired?
yeah, that has a
As of right now,
track,
I think literally that may have just closed a day ago. I don't know. I'm
but there's
being
no
facetious, but
community use of that at this point. There's no soccer or anything else that uses it.
it sits in Tredyffrin Township. Not that would block
But-
us from using it in
but
any
it does-
way.
it's out of our-
Now, whether or not the soccer club is negotiating something with that, they could very well be.
Okay, but on that side of the road, it's out of our township, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any other points for old business at this point?
I do have one question. I received the newsletter from our state representative here in the 168, and she cites to some funding of projects in our community, including $1.7 million to Radnor Township for a trail extension project. I guess, is that money like sitting in an account somewhere, and maybe sort of, I know there was meetings about it, looking about going under Radnor Chester Road, sort of like, as we talk about projects here, they're sort of in standstill, I guess. What's going on with that?
So the Radnor Trail extension, has been in a pipeline for a very long time. And it's been part of a number of different design concept plans. Ultimately, there was, get to Radnor Chester Road, and there's a need to go under, over, through, and ultimately the next phase of the design of the Radnor Trail extension. It had been weighed in by the commissioners a few years ago, and the understanding was it was going to go under. So the design ensued to go under. And then as it, continues across Radnor Chester and on towards the Blue Route Wall, there are some soils mitigation that's needed. There's hazardous materials as a result of the train bed, some of that had to be evaluated. So that's been in design, the underground method there, as well as the rest of the design for the project. And it's been awaiting funding. So I understand there was an opportunity that came available, and that was something that was pursued by the township. And I'm not sure that we have money sitting in the bank right now, but I know it was in progress in the last couple weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Were there any other trail project updates or? Yeah. And regarding the steward program, I know that we are getting a new board member shortly. I would just defer, maybe we can email back and forth in terms of our selections and agree before the next meeting.
Should we wait to see if he has any particular affiliation to a
I think we'd
park.
include him in the email exchange,
Whatever works.
and see if there's any preferences, and maybe at next meeting we can, when he's actually a board member, can finalize it. And we have reports then. It's hard to give reports now when we're not in the parks as much, but
Oh, one thing I would report that the TAP extension trail, there, those metal signs, no trespassing, someone went in there, bent them up, put some stickers on, and there seems to be some, posts from the fence off on those, so.
Do you mean along the back of Cornerstone? So they're like curled?
The trespassing signs, yeah, someone went in there recently in the last 2 weeks and curled the metal signs, and, I mean, it's nothing major, but it's just further examples of the trail to nowhere, so.
I had 2 points too, just so with parks, the West Wayne Preserve, just, it was very occupied this week when people on the trail was so crowded. But being on it, a lot of the protective tubes are down, and I don't know how we get in there to get those fixed and find out what's,
We have a contractor that's working on that.
okay. And also the parking lot access, the main parking lot for the Radnor Trail, there's been a car there, like, feels like abandoned there for a year and a half. I don't know the status of getting that out of there.
It's not on our property. Our property line is on the other side of that.
That-
We've been working with them, I'll say,
Is that?
for a long time to
if
try and,
People are parking there. Is that something that needs to be addressed by the owner, or?
it does. We've been working with them to do that, but that does belong to the owner there, and so does that portion of the property. We've discussed, how, should we put up fencing? How can we create a demarcation line that shows the property line? So that has definitely been
Is
in
it the
discussion.
owner's vehicle or some?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh.
It does not belong to anybody with the
'cause
township.
It looks as though there's a tag on it or something like that, so, just of note. Moving on to public participation, do we have any tonight? I realize there's a visitor here. If there is none, we could probably move on to adjournment.
I make a motion.
Second.
And with that, we'll assume adjournment. Good night.